It's no question that the NES and SNES Classics are huge hits. Everyone and their mother wants one. When the stores get them, they sell out almost immediately. And when one has success, others tend to follow in that success as well. Hello, what's up guys? I'm Kyle from KGR, and I watched Spawn Wave, and he reported probably last week or something. I'm kind of late to this because I don't have much free time to record videos much anymore. But he reported about Sony allegedly talking in-house about the possibility of a PlayStation Mini or PlayStation Classic, whatever you want to call it. Now, as cool as this thing would be, I would love to have one. But realistically, I'm not sure how possible it really is. I'm gonna sound like a negative Nancy in this video, so I'm probably gonna get some dislikes on this. But you gotta be real. And I hope I'm wrong about this. I hope that it does actually come out. But I don't have the expectation of it possibly coming out. Sound off in the comments what you think, please, after the video. Hear me out first. Now, suppose Sony does pull this off. They could do so many things that the NES Classic and the SNES Classic don't. For one, wireless controllers. Have an online shop so you can download more games. And if you're doing that, might as well throw in expandable storage. And please just make it micro SD cards. Please don't throw in proprietary memory cards. That's one of the reasons why the Vita failed. Now, I'm going to pull these back out. Again, I'm not trying to flex or anything. I'm not trying to show off. I have to demonstrate something. Now, if you look at both of these, even though the NES Classic has 30 games for $60 and the Super Nintendo is $80 for only 21 games, but has 2 controllers, honestly, I believe the NES Classic is the better value, mainly because the NES Classic is cheaper, has more games, so it's more of an impulse buy. And the reason why they're able to make it so cheap is because Nintendo throws a bunch of their games in there. Now, don't get me wrong, there are third-party games in there. We got Final Fantasy, we got Pac-Man, we got Mega Man, and some others in there as well. But Nintendo was able to make the thing so cheap because of most of their games being on there. And the files are so tiny, and they sold the game so many times over with the Virtual Console, it costed them little to nothing to throw their games in there. However, with Sony games, the first-party games from Sony are not made in-house like with Nintendo. With Crash Bandicoot, Naughty Dog, Spyro, Insomniac. It's all made by a different developer. Now, I'm gonna say this, I don't know exactly how the industry works, and I'm not gonna pretend like I do. But when you put these games on there, clearly somebody has to get paid, whether it be the publisher or the developer. How they're getting paid, whether it be $1 or $2 per system sold, or there'd be a big lump sum of cash so they can just put out as many as they want. Again, I don't know, I'm just speculating. But at the end of the day, somebody has to get paid, and it can't just be Sony. Now, there's 2 things that have me question the possibility of this thing being a thing. Like I just said, it has to do with the third parties and the storage. Now, obviously, if they make this thing, they have to one-up Nintendo somehow. They gotta show that they're a good competition compared to the NES Classic. So it has to come down to the price and the games. I don't expect them to put on 30 games, but I want to expect at least 20 or maybe 25. But honestly, that's asking for a little much, because these games aren't tiny. If you take an NES library or an SNES library, you can fit the whole library, probably both of these, on a 2 gig SD card. These games are not big. While you're looking at games like Final Fantasy or even Metal Gear, they take up 2 or 3 discs each. And then you're gonna have games like Spyro and Crash. Now, first up, before I mention anything about them, let's put down Crash, Spyro, Parappa, and Medieval. Now, those are all first-party games, and they're all fantastic. But what do all of them have in common? They're coming, if not already came, to the PS4 as a remaster. So sure, you can look at the PS1 games and think, oh yeah, nostalgia, but they're already being offered on PS4. There's almost no point. Now, if you want to go for retro, by all means, I'm not going to hate on you. But as a business decision, I'm not sure how smart that really is. And like I was trying to get to earlier before I mentioned about remasters, these games are big. They have franchises. Like with Crash, sure, there's 5 games on there, but nobody wants Crash Bash. They want the trilogy and Team Racing. Spyro, they're gonna want the whole trilogy. That already takes up 7 slots. And then you have heavy hitters like Final Fantasy, because you know Final Fantasy's gotta be in there. That's gonna take up a good portion of the memory because of its multiple discs. And you're gonna wanna have multiple third parties like Metal Gear, and of course, I would say Tony Hawk needs to be on there. I know Spawn Wave already mentioned that, but I agree. It needs to be on there. Oh yeah, and Rayman. Rayman's a good choice too. Sound off in the comments what games do you want to see on there. But make it realistic. Make it games that's already on the PlayStation Store. Something that Sony already has access to be able to resell. Ooh, if LSD Dream Emulator got on there, that'd be pretty rad. But anyway, having all those games is gonna take up a lot of slots and a lot of memory. So suppose they try to implement a rule of, okay, we can only have one game per series. That's gonna piss off a lot of people, because their favorite game is probably not gonna be on there. And recently, memory is also getting expensive. I mean, look at the price of RAM now. And with these files being kinda hefty, and the fact that you also gotta pay these developers or publishers, anyway, somebody's getting paid for these. Can they also still make it at a value that is still an impulse buy? Like $80 for a Super Nintendo Classic, like sure, that's cool, but it's not as consumer value friendly compared to NES Classic. There's no way that Sony's gonna be able to make this thing and sell it for like $50 or $60. I'm sorry. Memory is too expensive. Having the rights for all these games, that's not gonna be very cheap either. I would assume this thing to be like $80 to $100. Now don't get me wrong, like I would still love to get one, whether it be for me or as a gift. But loading this thing with a lot of games and trying to make it relatively cheap, it's not gonna be that easy. And honestly, the cut on cost, I'm not even sure if they are gonna be able to do a wireless controller. Like sure, they can do a lot of things better, but it's gonna be more expensive. But I don't know, that's my 2 cents. I would love to be wrong about this. I would love to see this thing become a reality. But the reasons that I mentioned in this video has me nervous of me thinking that this thing is not gonna happen. Sound off in the comments, what do you think about this whole thing? Do you think it's gonna happen? What games do you want to see on there? And while you're at it, throw a price down there as well. And if you're new and you like what you saw, you know what to do. I'm not sure how the like and dislike ratio are gonna be. I can already hear in the comments, wow, your voice is annoying. It makes me want to fucking kill myself. But hey, what can you do? I try my best. Hold on, let me have a fake YouTube voice. Hello, what is up? I'm Kyle from KGR. Like, I'm sorry, I kind of do have a YouTube voice. It tends to happen. But whatever, I'm rambling. I'm sorry. In the description, there's my social media. So if you want to follow me on Twitter and hit me up in the DMs or something, by all means, do so. If you like pictures of action figures, Instagram, because I'm a fucking man-child. I've been Kyle from KGR, and peace, guys.